Can you be prosecuted over £2.50? The short answer is yes, you can. It doesn't matter how much the offence is for, you can be prosecuted for it. In my very early training days, I was in the magistrate's court and someone was being prosecuted for stealing, wait for it, a £1 pair of socks from Primark. They were found guilty, so now they have a criminal record for the offence of theft, shoplifting, low-value shoplifting because it's under £200. But the case that I'm talking about today is where someone was taken to court for the offence of avoiding the fare on the railway. A very old piece of legislation, 1889 in fact, the Regulation of Railways Act of 1889. Under Section 5, subsection 3, subsection A, if any person travels or attempts to travel on the railway without having previously paid the fare, and with the intent to avoid payment thereof, then they commit an offence. They're liable on summary conviction for a fine and not exceeding level 3 on the scale, etc., etc. I'll talk about that in another video. But the reason for this video is that there's a huge discussion opened up about this very issue. Now, I'm definitely not talking about any one particular case at all, and the £2.50 is made up. It wasn't £2.50, but let's say, hypothetically, for example, someone has paid the wrong fare because either they've accidentally paid the wrong fare or they've got a card that normally provides a discount which has expired and therefore should not have provided a discount on that particular day. And so one reason or another, the fare was wrong. Now, let's say that the difference was £2.50. Let's say that they were prosecuted for travelling, having paid the wrong fare by £2.50. Now, this piece of legislation, now by no means am I encouraging anybody to try to dodge fares. You should absolutely pay the correct fare, and it irritates me no end when I see people that are clearly fare dodging. They're usually easy to spot because when the inspector comes down, they run and hide in the bathroom. And then when the inspector's gone, they come out and have a look around so that they can see that the inspector's gone and they won't get caught dodging the fare. So that does irritate me, just as people having their feet on the chairs irritates me. But by the by, if someone is prosecuted for this kind of offence, this section requires intent. So taking the scenario where you've missed the train and you've got the next one, and it's a one-off occasion, or you've got a card that's recently expired and you forgot that the card expired and you've got a history of travelling on that card and you've always paid the correct fare up to this one point in time, or any other number of reasons why you might just have accidentally paid the wrong fare. This bit of legislation provides that they must prove that you have the intent to avoid payment. Now, if there's any reasonable doubt whatsoever that you did have the intent to avoid payment, then you should not be convicted of this offence, because this is not a strict liability offence, which is something you've done this, you're guilty, so it doesn't require intent. This specifically sets out the intent to avoid payment. And if there were any doubt, section B below it provides that having paid the fare for a certain distance, knowingly and willfully proceeding on the train beyond that distance without having paid the additional fare, or having paid the fare, gives in response to a request by an officer a false name and address, either of which they would be liable to an offence. But as I said, this requires intent, and there are many different offences like this that do require intent. So whilst that is all true, then the debate that's popped up is that this is not worth the time to prosecute because it's such a low value amount. That in itself I don't agree with, because if you say 10,000 people do exactly the same thing and evade the system by £2.50, that is obviously a massive scale. If hundreds of thousands of people avoid £1 or £2, or if 1 million people avoid £1 or £2, suddenly we're getting into quite extreme numbers. This is then a severe problem because these companies very often run right to the budget and are only just about able to operate as it is. So the principle is certainly there, but if there is a valid defence available, and in my view these should be decided and discussed beforehand, and everybody should take a realistic and pragmatic approach to say, well, there is a reasonable doubt that this person did not travel intentionally avoiding payment. And these, of course, are just my thoughts, but these kind of cases pop up again and again. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you support these prosecutions when someone has failed to pay the requisite fare by an amount of about £2.50? Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe. See you next time.